So here we are in the last Sunday of the month of Healing is Revealing. And we talked about the healing heart all month long, the healing heart of love. And then we talked about the healing heart of joy, and we had a lot of fun telling jokes and being goofy. And today's talk is about the healing heart of service, how really it is very healing to be of service. So I wanted to start with a little joke. It's a carryover from the healing heart of joy. There was a mom was at work, and she was called to the phone, and they said her daughter was sick and at home, and so she needed to get home right away. So she was on her way home, and she stopped at the drugstore because there was medicine for the child there, and she gets the drugs, and she goes back to her car, and she had locked her keys in her car. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. And so she's got a wire, and she's trying to unlock the car from the outside, and she's so frustrated, and the time is going by, and she wants to get home with her daughter. And finally, this gentleman drives up in an old, beat-up car, and he walks over and he said, you having a problem? She said, yeah, I locked my keys in my car, and I can't get in. And he was like, not a problem. He picks out a little Slim Jim, pops the lock right away. Boom, open, 2 seconds. And she went, oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. It's really, really kind of you. You are just a wonderful, wonderful man. And he went, no, not really. As a matter of fact, I'm a car thief. And I just got out of jail, not 2 hours ago for kind of doing just this. And so the woman said, well, I've been praying and praying, but thank you, God, you sent a professional. And that's what being of service is all about. Dr. Albert Schweitzer said this. He said, I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. And that is the truth. Dr. Schweitzer was on to something there, He knew that serving does good. It does good for us doing the serving. It does wonders for the ones being served. And now there's medical evidence proving the connection between serving others and the server's emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being. Not only are we happier when we do things for others, but we are healthier also. And they have been proving this in test after test. So let's look at the science of serving. There you go, the science of serving. There are 50 clinical studies right now being funded by the Institute of Research on Unlimited Love, headed by Dr. Stephen Post, who is a professor of bioethics at Case Western School of Medicine. And it is a comprehensive investigation of altruism, benevolence, compassion, generosity, and kindness. And these studies are showing that altruism is the antidote to stress. Volunteering reduces cortisol levels, which is a byproduct of stress, which is also responsible for that fight or flight syndrome alongside of adrenaline. So sustained high levels of cortisol and adrenaline can cause irregular cellular changes. That leads to premature cellular death. So the study said this. Studies of telomeres, which are the end caps of your genes, show that long-term stress shortens those telomeres, shortens those end caps, and shortened end caps are linked to early death. The studies indicate we're dealing with something that is extremely powerful. He goes on to say this. Ultimately, the process of cultivating a positive emotional state through pro-social behaviors, being generous, lengthens our lives. Isn't that wonderful? Studies show that volunteers live longer than non-volunteers. They show, in fact, that volunteering has even a greater effect on our body than exercising 4 times a week. Yeah, right? I found that out. I'm like, yay. No, I'm only kidding. Okay. So volunteering is good for us and good for those that we serve. I think that's wonderful news. And we know this. We know this is the truth in our hearts, don't we? When we go on the internet, we go on Facebook, and we read all those stories, and we resonate with them right here. We get it. We just get it that we know this is the truth of us, There's a guy who is a security guard at Disneyland, and he carries an autograph book with him, and every time he sees a little girl dressed up as a princess, he goes over and asks for her autograph. Isn't that the sweetest thing in the world? Oh my God. And the little girls are astonished because they're like, oh my God, there's this grown-up who actually thinks I'm a real princess, you know? What a wonderful, delightful way to serve. I mean, that's just amazing. You know, we saw the pictures of the policeman who buys shoes for homeless people, right? There are a group of progressive Christians, I love this, they show up at gay pride parades and they apologize for the other Christians who show up at gay pride parades. Oh, come on, I mean, that's wonderful. I just read a story of 17-year-old Megan Vogel. She was in last place running a 3,200-meter race when she caught up to one of the competitors. Her name was Arden McMath, whose body was like totally giving out. She was just falling down. So instead of running past McGrath to not be in last place, Vogel put her arms around the girl and walked with her. I know, isn't this terrible? Ugh. Walked with her to the finish line and actually pushed her over first. That's wonderful. We do this all the time, and we resonate with things like that because this is the truth of us. There's a Subway sandwich store that gives out free sandwiches to the homeless every Friday at like between 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a dry cleaners. I know you've seen that on Facebook or the internet. There's a dry cleaner who offers free dry cleaning services for suits for unemployed people if they're going on job interviews, right? We've all seen this. And how many photos have we seen on the internet of, men and women rescuing deer on frozen lakes, or dogs in icy water, or cats up trees? I mean, we do this all the time. This is the heart of us. This is the truth of us. We do good things all the time. We do good things because we can. We do good things because it makes us feel good when we do good things. We do good things, I believe, because it's encoded in our DNA. We are good people. We are good humans. We're good. We're good. And our capacity to be good is limitless. And we serve others because we see a need, we step up, we serve. And it makes us feel better, too, by serving. It just makes us feel good to do good. It makes us feel good spiritually, physically, mentally. And I ask why? Why does it make us feel so good? I have to go back to core concept 1, which says God is all there is. Well, it makes perfect sense then, doesn't there? There's only one of us in the room. There's just one of us in the room. There's just the life of God. Even though it's expressing in all of these different ways, the Spirit of God is infused in every single one of us. The truth of who we are, the truth of that oneness of all life is within us, and we know that. The fact that we're all manifestations of the one life, we recognize other as us. We are that. We are that. Not only are we that, we're the space between that. We're all there is. Core concept 1, God is all there is. God is all there is. So you see someone in trouble, you see yourself. You see someone who needs a help, you see yourself. The truth is, what is good for you is good for me, because there's only one of us here. And at our base, this is the truth. There's only one. There's only one. So as I give to you, I give to myself. As I accept good from you, I know that you and I and he and she are one. So that all good is good for all. We are the truth expressing as this one life of God's. And so when we do good, we recognize it as good for all. Giving, we are all giving of the self to the self. And that's really the truth of it. So this helper's high that we read about in the medical journals is, we can understand how that is true, because we recognize that there is only one. And so it's a perfectly natural response. It is a perfectly natural response. When we're doing good for others, we're doing good for ourselves. There's a story, and I don't remember exactly how it goes, but I remember the context of it. There's a story about I think it's a Buddhist story, about an old gentleman who lived in a modest little house, and one day the house was set upon by a robber who gained entry of his modest house and took his possessions. And when the robber was caught in town, he was dragged back to the old man's house because the people in town recognized the possessions and who they belonged to. So they dragged him back to the old man's house, And they asked the old man to identify his belongings because this robber had them and he had stolen them. And the old man said, no one can steal from me. I gave him those things. And so the authorities just sort of went on their way, and the robber was so touched by the fact that he wasn't turned in by the old man. He stayed on, and he recognized the truth of the oneness in that very act of the old man's, and he never stole again. So this is the real truth of us, that nobody can steal from us. We are all one. We are all one. Do you ever lose something and you think, oh, well, someone is going to find it and they're going to obviously have better use of it than I, because I'm sort of like, there must be a part of me that gave it away, There must be a part of me that gave it away because someone else needed it more than I. Ernest Holmes, in Ideas for Living, he said this. He said, we should give of ourselves in love and in service to others, in a spirit of generosity and good fellowship. To refuse to give is to refuse to receive. Just think about that. To refuse to give is to refuse to receive, for everything moves in cycles. Real giving is the givingness of the self. A kind word, a thoughtful act, perhaps just a smile, can help lighten the burdens of others. So we are always giving, aren't we? We're always giving to others. Just our energy, just our attitude, just our smile. In the book Houses of Worship by authors Byron Johnson and Maria Pagano, they stated that there's two key elements to AA, to Alcoholics Anonymous. And they said the two key elements are helping others and God consciousness. And that those two elements are statistically more likely to keep an adherent clean and sober in 6 months after treatment, when almost 70% of general offenders relapse. Two things: God consciousness and serving others. And Ernest Holmes wrote about alcoholism, and he wrote in books and pamphlets, actually, about it. And he said this: it is generally accepted that some form of useful service to humanity, perhaps in helping other sufferers, is one of the best possible ways of seeking permanent happiness. We are so invested in helping others, and it helps us by helping others. And here at Vision, we have the attitude of service, don't we? Come on, who here serves at Vision? Look at this. Everybody's got their hand up. Everybody has their hand up. We have opportunities to serve both within and outside of this center. We helped build houses for Habitat for Humanity, right? Who was there that day? We have served dinners at Ronald McDonald House, right, with Reverend Sam Flynn. Who did that? We picked up trash on I Love a Clean San Diego Day. God, it was like 107. Do you remember that day? Who was with me when we were cleaning up? Oh, my God. We were in an empty lot or canyon. We were in a canyon. Oh, my gosh. It was just the hottest day of the year, and we picked up trash. We helped raise money at walkathons, Out of the Darkness, suicide prevention. We know the value of service here. We practice it. This is a practical spirituality. And we practice acts of service both within our congregation and outside these walls. And that's what makes us feel good. It makes us feel good to be of service. Who brings food for hospitality? Right? We all do. Come on, everybody's hand should be up. Every once in a while, we all bring something. Who takes the signs in and out? Mike and Tim and just anybody who's around to lend a hand will do it. Ushers, greeters, chair schleppers. Who schleps chairs? Come on, everybody. Yeah, see? This is what we did. This is acts of service. We all do it. And we do it for others because being of service makes us feel good. It's kind of it's not really selfish, but there is a lot of giving of the self to the self. It makes us feel good when we serve others. And we all do it. Think of your life. Think of how many times you serve others, how many kind things you do, how many cups of coffee did you buy for someone, how many times did you just go for a walk, how many times did you just smile at a cashier because it looked like she was having a real bad day. Think of all the ways during your day that you are in service to others. We are always serving others, even when we're bumping up against them, and that happens, even when we're bumping up against them and rubbing our rough edges off on each other, as Reverend Kathy Hearn used to say, right? And we're in conflict, we are being of service. We're healing our wound of our own, and perhaps we're healing theirs as well. We're being that catalyst for change in someone else's life. When we give to others, we are serving them, and we are serving ourselves. The healing heart knows that service is a great part of being in the world, of being in life. It is a great way to know of our oneness when we are serving each other, when we recognize there is only one of us anyway. And what is good for you is good for me. Ernest Holmes said this in It's Up to You. Every man and woman is one with all good. Therefore, I am one with every human. Wherever I go, I am meeting friendship, love, kindness, and consideration. I am loving every human, and I am desiring everyone's good, as I am desiring of my own. I give every person kindness and unselfish service. Therefore, these things come back to me in friendship, heaped up, pressed down, and running over. For the universal mind can deny me nothing. Who does this will find friends wherever he goes. Every person has within himself the power and the capacity to know God, to understand reality, to be divine, because he and she is divine, and to be absolutely and completely the master of his or her own fate when we understand truth. What a lovely thing to think about. So let's do that this week. Let's think about all the ways we serve, all the ways we are already being of service, and all the ways that we can serve in the future, knowing and accepting it is always a gift of the self to the self. We identify with something greater than ourselves, and it also comes back to us. Because what we want to see in the world, we first have to be in the world. Because we know that the world responds to us. It doesn't happen to us, it responds to us. So being of service to the world always comes back to serve us. Thank you so much.